All right, that worked.
How's the audio?
It's good. You're sloshing something around.
It is horrible.
I hate the straw noises. I hate the whatever's happening right now.
At least I'm not trying to make a cup of coffee during the podcast.
Has someone done that?
That was me. Remember last Community Endurance Run, I decided to use a Keurig K-Cup machine in the midway point of the podcast?
Yep, that was a thing you did. We're professionals, everything. Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Rieko here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and it is once again time to continue on our final Five-stasy playthrough of Final Fantasy V. And to do that, I am joined, as always, by Chris ZombiePie Redacted.
Oh, I want to dance with somebody. Somebody who loves me. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Here to talk about a Final Fantasy game yet again.
I thought we were talking about Final Fantasy, not Pitch Perfect.
Ooh, snap. Singer should be a class. Why isn't Singer a class, Gino?
Dancer's a class. You can dance with somebody.
Yeah, you're right. Unfortunately, Dancer's kind of crap.
Unfortunately, if you want to sing with somebody, you need to play Final Fantasy X too.
Yeah.
And we are also joined, as always, by Jeff Rud, our master of old games.
Hi. So, funny story. So, not to really, milk this for all it's worth, but I just finished getting married a couple weeks ago.
Yay!
And,
congratulations.
Thank you. The nuptial festivities ended with some really crummy karaoke that was done via Rock Band.
Excellent.
Which means as part of our wedding expenses, which we've totaled up, I spent about $250 in Rock Band DLC in the year of our Lord 2020, including Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody, which you can in fact play in Rock Band. And it's not a very good chart.
Weird. Not a very good chart in terms of the instrumentals, or trying to sing it is some other.
I mean, that's Whitney Houston, fine performer. Vocal track is fine, but there's numerous songs. I had someone, so some of my friends, I ginned up a little bit and I said, hey, I'm doing this. Can I pre-funk you one or two songs that you can clean up for this event? And some people, gave me some shoe-ins, and I wound up buying Super Freak. And man, Super Freak's guitar chart is pretty dull.
Oh, you don't think that's not that fun?
It's nearly as bad as let's see. It's not Remain in Light. It's
There are some Johnny Cash tracks where if you're the bassist, it's that dun 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 over and over again.
I mean, so I'm a bass guitarist, and when I lived in Texas my senior year of high school, my mom was actively being like, "You should just quit your high school job and just be a studio musician for the next year." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Look at how country music plays bass." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I could probably make $100 every week or so subbing into a studio and just first fifth. Anyway, real fun.
Time to play the country music. Oh wait, ZP, do you have something to add?
What? No. Why? What did I do?
It seemed like you were interjecting for a second. I just
no.
Didn't want to
this
blow
is
your
one
flow.
time where I'm not trying to interrupt.
Yeah, that was my butt just to get us into the game. I guess if I'll interrupt one more time, though, thank you for ceding the floor. I am drinking a Deschutes Black Butte Porter today instead of a Claw.
That's why I wanted to interrupt.
There you go. I hooked you up.
Fuck.
Okay. I've got another food review. Can you dig it?
Yep. Okay, I regret this now.
I can't stop him.
So this time, as always, I try to eat the foods of Gino's people, vegetables and things that are supposed to replace meat.
It's unclear to me which people he means when he says that anymore.
Is that racist or just dismissive?
I don't know. I don't know if he's talking about...
I went to the Walmart down by the street, and I said, what are some vegetables I can find that at least Gino would understand as, being better alternatives than what I normally eat? Because if you follow the Deep Listens Discord, which Gino will rep in a little bit, my diet is poor.
Yes.
I have a poor diet. So I've decided to buy, it says, fresh picked goodness harvest snaps.
Oh.
And these are green peas snack crisps. I've never had these before.
I am a fan.
Yeah, those are good.
So they're baked. They're real green peas. They are just like baked things. They look weird. So let me open this.
Is this one of those, like, they've made a powder or made some sort of chip out of green peas, or are they peas?
Yeah, it looks like it's like what normally would be deep fried green peas, but they're baked and they're lightly salted. So I'm just gonna take like 4 or 5 of these and shove them down my gullet.
Yeah, that's the way.
So is it? Don't chew into the microphone. God. I try to run a professional show, and every time this happens. They're better for you than whatever garbage you were going to eat instead. Sometimes you need to have green peas. Sometimes you go with some peanuts, some loose peanuts.
Huh.
You ever think about how you can buy peanuts pre-shelled, and then you can also buy peanuts in shell?
And I'm going to eat it nice and slow.
Yeah. And how the peanuts in shell, like the weight of the shell is included in the weight, so you're getting less peanuts, and also you're paying for work?
Indeed. This has bothered me, in fact.
Now, I understand you can at least use the peanut shells to, like, seed a garden, because they're high in nitrogen, but that's usually not a consideration for me. I just want the nut.
I just want the nut.
I'm going to say these are
Gino
okay.
Grieco.
Yep.
These are okay. I would say I'd still probably go with potato chips.
Well, yeah, they're not competing with potato chips for flavor. They're just better for you than potato chips.
If you get those baked potato chips, they're pretty good. You know what I actually think that this more reminds me of is that Pirate's Booty, like popcorn puffy stuff.
Yes.
Sure.
But better, because it's not just corn.
I like popcorn.
That's not This is not the argument for eating this. Welcome to our show about Final Fantasy V.
Indeed.
What's wrong with popcorn? If it's slightly salted and it's like the Smart Puff stuff, it's good.
Nothing's wrong.
So Final Fantasy V.
Nothing's wrong with popcorn.
Wait.
All right. What?
Don't we have a format? Isn't Gino supposed to say his paragraph?
I'm doing a thing. So if you want to get in touch with the show and email in, you can do so at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can send in emails. And also, if you want to see the Discord where ZP explains how terrible his diet is, you can do so by supporting us at patreon.com/deeplistens.
I have not told the horrible food concoction in a while.
You haven't. But...
But the last one I told you, you apparently thought was like a food crime, the bologna sandwich pie.
Yes, you're a food criminal. You need to be arrested for your food crimes. And if you want to see the next time he commits a food crime, you can support us on Patreon. And that Patreon has done a great deal to help support our hosting costs, and we will hopefully be making some investments soon to improving the show, thanks to the support of listeners like you. I'm going to keep under wraps what exactly we're doing, but there's some things in the works.
There's plans.
Yes. So without further ado, Final Fantasy V.
You have a YouTube comment.
I do?
Yes.
Okay.
I responded to that YouTube comment. It's on one of your Final Fantasy V things.
Okay. Let me pull this up. See, this is what happens when you're on the show, because I don't look at my YouTube comments.
Try to be more on brand, Gino. Jeez.
Not looking at YouTube.
Tap dancing on your face says, "Is there anyone out there that knows more about Final Fantasy than you?" There are probably some, but not many.
Gino's probably the forefront expert on Final Fantasy IX.
Yeah, I'm probably one of the most knowledgeable on 8 and 9.
What is your Final Fantasy VIII time at this point?
Like amount of time I've spent playing that game?
No, like if you were to not casual run, but like your record pace at this point.
Like
Rubber meets the road best. Yes.
I mean, probably 11 to 12 hours, I'd guess. It depends on the mode, because the PC version runs a little faster, and I don't know if the remaster has impacted load time significantly.
I don't think you've actually tried a proper Final Fantasy IX speedrun on the Steam the not effed up load time PC version. That might be something to think about.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing 9 again. I haven't done 9 in a while. And 8, I don't think I've ever really done an 8 completely threadbare run, because I've always done it for fundraising events that add additional incentives.
See, that's the thing, is like you always like tack on extra hours onto your speed runs nowadays to raise more money. But yeah, that might be something to think about. Like, does the Gino highly optimized speed run on 9 not involve getting Excalibur 2 or whatever it is?
Oh, no, you have to. You have to get Excalibur 2.
Okay.
The problem is getting Excalibur 2 while also doing other ancillary bullshit. That's the trick, is having so much time left over that you can still do the donation incentives while still getting 2. Because without Excalibur 2, it's hard to win. But that's a different Final Fantasy game, and thank you for your comment, YouTube comment person.
Also, want to just say... sorry.
There are definitely people who know more than me, but on certain games, not very many people.
Also, this is something that I'm just going to bring up, because apparently people on Giant Bomb think that I'm the Final Fantasy expert because I keep writing these blogs. I'm not. I'm just some schlum who's like leaning into his brain. Just want to say to the like 20 to 30 actual people who added me on the Giant Bomb Discord asking for my opinions about the Final Fantasy VII trailer. Stop. I have a life. It's not all about Final Fantasy, even though it might seem that way. And also, it looks fine.
It does. That looks like a good game. I mean,
I still take the maybe mildly controversial hot take of I don't think they should be making this game. I think that this is just a sign of how creatively bankrupt Square is as a company. I think that, I mean, we've gone down this road before, but it's just it's telling of the state of the Final Fantasy franchise that they are relying on this game, a bunch of god-awful mobile games, and 14 to keep this franchise flowing, because 15 was not it.
Sure
that wasn't it.
And one day we'll play 15, but that's not today. We're going 10 games earlier to Final Fantasy V. So when last we left the 5th Final Fantasy, we were escaping a burning Karnak because we had destroyed the Fire Crystal and the city's on fire. Or the castle, I should say, is on fire. You kind of run out. There's a bunch of treasure chests. You can grab them. And then you get access to another set of jobs. We already went over those jobs, but just in case you need a refresher, they are Summoner, Trainer, Ninja, and there's one other one. It's on the top of my brain.
And Jeff and my version's Trainer is known as Beastmaster.
Beastmaster, indeed. Yes. What's the last one? Is it Geomancer?
I'm pretty sure.
It's Geomancer.
It's Geomancer.
Or is Geomancer the one you get out of the Black Chocobo? Because there's 3 you get out of the Black Chocobo, and then there's 1.
Darn it! Now I need to FF5 jobs crystals.
So Jeff, just old school gamer thing that I started doing. Whenever I got to Karnak, I called it Karnov instead. Because Karnov, everyone's favorite TurboGrafx protagonist.
Arcade game originally, too.
It was? Wow.
Yeah.
The Fire Crystal gives you Beastmaster,
bring
Geomancer.
Back Karnov.
Beastmaster, Geomancer, Ninja, Ranger, and Bard. And so, yeah, you can sing in Final Fantasy V. Bard.
Right.
You can do everything. Whatever you want.
You learn hit songs as you go, which I guess we can talk about. Yeah. So, leave a burning castle in what I found to be a pretty cool sequence at the time.
Yeah.
You get
I made the first big mistake of misjudging the amount of time left, not realizing there's a boss battle at the end. So it's like, I'm going to get everything in the castle, and then I'm going to have 10 seconds left, and I'm just going to walk out. Oh, wait.
Turns out there's a mercenary X-Claw, or Death Claw.
Which you get, what's the blue magic that you get out of him? It's Death Grips, or...
Death Claw.
No, it's Death Claw. Not Death Grips.
Yeah, it reduces your opponent's HP to single digits, which is messed up, and it works on some bosses.
It works on anyone without a resistance or immunity to paralysis, I believe.
No, it's to fraction.
Oh, okay.
There's a fractional HP status effect that they can be immune to, and if they are not immune to that, you can just set them to 1 HP.
Yeah.
It's pretty good against some bosses, turns out, to just set them to 1 HP. From there, you get access to the fire ship, which allows you to just move around most of the oceans in the world. But you can take the fire ship to a crescent island, which is one of the first areas you can access now that you've got that ship. And as soon as you get to the crescent island, an earthquake happens when you go to the town on Crescent Island, and it pulls your ship under the water. So minutes after you get the ship, you can easily lose it.
It's like, oh, man.
Oh, damn, I'm trapped on this island. But wait, there's a little forest on this island, and if you go in there, it's the Black Chocobo Forest, where you can catch a black chocobo, and if you do so, you whack it, well, you try to fly it first, and then when you crash down, you have to give it the Heimlich maneuver, and it spits out the 2 jobs that you did not get earlier from the fire crystal exploding. The black chocobo allows you to fly and move across the world. You can have to land in forests, but otherwise you can pretty much move unmolested around the world, which this game at this point has given you a ship, a drake, a steam-powered or fire-powered ship, a black chocobo, all in, what, of course, like 2 hours?
Yeah, about.
Yeah, pretty early on at this point.
I have to say the limitation of needing to land on a forest in certain locations is such a pain.
Yeah.
And in some ways I felt like it was, I'm going to be honest, I actually parked the chocobo next to the Windrake, and then I started riding the Windrake instead.
The only problem with the Windrake is it can't go over mountains, and the black chocobo can. So there's some areas that you can't go with the Windrake. But once you get the Windrake, you can fly back to Sid and Mid and tell them, hey, I found this cool chocobo, and also sorry about your ship. And they will kind of go back and start investigating what's going on. They tell you that there's the Earth Crystal. We think that it's in this town south of this gigantic desert. So go to the desert. When you go to the desert, it turns out that there's sands there that are constantly moving, and they will not let you traverse unless you create a bridge to cross those sands. And to do that, you have to fight a sandworm, which is one of the more annoying boss fights.
It is. I think that the boss moving after you've queued up an attack, it can move away into a different area or different hole was one of the most annoying things I dealt with this chunk. Yeah, because remember, it counterattacks you if you hit an empty hole with like gravity.
Yeah,
which is messed up, especially messed up.
Yeah, it was the closest thing to remind me of like a Final Fantasy I combat where you could whiff on missed attacks, basically.
And I will say, like, it's something that will come up later, but when you can cheese the bosses, it's like, this is great. These jobs are so cool. But when you get into those handful of bosses where you can't cheese them and they're immune to virtually every status effect and you can't use death by math, the game really does show that, like, the ATV system in those scenarios is sluggish and really slow, and these battles are slogs.
Yeah, the way to cheese this specific boss is if you have a ninja, you can throw water scrolls at it, or if you have a blue mage and you learned Aqua Lung.
Yeah. Those I didn't because the Quadra Harpy is a hard thing.
Yeah, I could not survive Aqua Lung to learn it, but those 2 attacks, because it's in a desert, it is weak to water. Yeah. So that's kind of the way you get away with killing that thing quickly. But otherwise, you kind of just need to attack it and wait and pick your spots. Once you defeat the worm, you can go further south, and once you traverse the entire desert, you get to this town that's basically just a ruin, but King Tycoon is there, Lena and Ferris's father. And as you move around the town, he's all sneaky. He like pops up behind a building and then like tiptoes away. It's some nice vaudeville humor, I think.
Yeah.
And
in the way that they do sort of like, again, like Beijing opera, sort of very pantomime stuff in these games because they don't have a lot of tools.
Yeah,
get a lot of mileage out of it.
They get a lot of mileage out of it, and you eventually corner him, and when you do, he hits a button and knocks you down a hole, and you fall into a subterranean ruin.
You sure do fall down trap holes a lot in this game. It's going to come up a lot.
Again, using the tools they had.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once you get down there, Ferris, Lena, and Bartz are separated from Galoof, and they're like, well, Galoof's probably fine. We're going to leave him behind. And you see Galoof, like, pantomiming, like, oh, shit, they're going to leave me.
Yeah, he's, like, in frame, basically, behind a wall.
Yeah.
The other thing is isn't this the scene where Ferris admits that she is indeed the daughter of King Tycoon and their sisters? I think that also, this is the moment where that happens. But yeah.
Galoof. Oh, yeah, because aren't they both like, Dad?
One says Dad and the other says Papa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool scene. It's probably one of the better examples of how good this game is at managing its drama and levity, because it's like, oh, we're gonna have this sister to sister moment, and then Galoof is literally climbing like, you mother effers, I'm not gonna let you leave me.
Yeah, it's genuinely funny when it tries to turn on the funny most of the time.
Yes, and It doesn't feel misplaced. It doesn't feel awkward. Well, there are a few times, but this game is probably one of the most well-balanced stories we've seen on this podcast series. Normally when, the fish out of water humor that is normally the bane of our existence, this is a game that manages to avoid that and then have these actual great moments of sentimentality that are counteracted with levity. And these are actual people. They feel like characters in this larger-than-life experience.
They're just having a big, fun adventure. And I'm glad to be on it with them.
Yeah.
So you get to a teleporter. It teleports you to another set of ruins. And after you get teleported, the teleporter blows up behind you. You kind of explore these new ruins a little bit. You can open some treasure chests. You find some secret books and literature. You can rest. And after you do that, you find a little button, because the only way out, there's a set of locked doors. When you press the button, it causes a trapped... So Mid and Sid fly the Black Chocobo over to Crescent Island for some reason. And when you press the button to open this door that you need to walk through, it also opens a trap door on the exact spots that Sid and Mid are standing on in the Black Chocobo forest, and they fall down into the section that you're in, which is the best. Here's these two characters that were on a completely separate continent when you started this entire journey. They flew to the exact spot where you needed them to be, and then were standing in the exact perfect spot when you hit a button to fall down to help you. This game's Deus Ex Machina is great and stupid. It's Rube Goldberg several times over. But it's fun. It's a fun little thing. So they fall down. They find that the fire ship is in this dock, but also an airship is in the dock. And so they decide to fix up the airship for you. Once you take the airship, you can fly it up, and you encounter a boss fight because there is a sea creature attached to the hull of the airship. It is a crayclaw, I believe it's called. It's a crayfish. I found that boss fight's pretty easy. The only thing that's dangerous about it is it can set your HP to, I think, single digits. It has a move that does that.
Yeah. A lot of this game kind of reminds me of when we were playing Final Fantasy XII with Roy. It's like these boss battles were either cake or they were these long, elongated slog fests where I felt like I was battling to maintain my attention, or they were just really hard or completely to chance. And so there's, as much as I like and respect the, character work and the dynamic gameplay in terms of how you can just swap these jobs here and there. It was certainly, the difficulty swings in this game are insane sometimes. I think Gino joked about it, how, hey, you've been kind of lucky with these 3D Final Fantasy games, because when we go back to the 2D, 16, and 8-bit era, you're going to get your ass kicked. And yeah, that certainly has happened a lot in this game, where it's like, oh, I'm just going through this cave, and there's a 25% chance that an enemy will pop up and it'll just completely kill my party because it's got one of those attacks. Oh, hey, this guy's got level 5 death, and now my party is dead.
You gotta spread out your levels. Can't have everyone on a level 5 level all at once. Otherwise, you die. Oops.
Yeah, it's just, I like how the game plays with its own rules, and it holds you accountable to those rules, but certainly there are times where, and we'll talk about this later, there's some times where I feel like this game is cheap. Like, really cheap.
Yeah, and
in terms
you
of
can
its
get in on the
difficulty
cheapness, which is
Yeah.
interesting. Like, this game has more things to think about than most other Final Fantasy games, or most other JRPGs in general. And I say that meaning, like, there are other games where there are more subsystems and more minutia to know. This game, I think, has a fairly simple combat engine, but every single part of it is relevant in most fights.
Yeah.
We'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Yes, as we keep going. So the Crayclaw, beat that thing. It's pretty easy. There is a way to dupe items when you fight the Crayclaw if you have the PS1 or SNES version of this game. You can toss a specific sword that you can steal from the Crayclaw at it, and then that will get you at 0 instances of that item. And then I believe if you throw again, you'll get into negative. You steal from the Crayclaw, and then you throw the item again, and it causes an underflow. And you end up with 99 of whatever sword it is. I think it's like a coral sword.
Huh.
Yeah.
Which you then just sell, presumably.
To have a ton of money. Yeah. So that's one of the ways you can break this game. You need the ninja and the thief to do that. But in my 4-job Fiesta, I had access to the sorcerer, the blue mage, and the beastmaster.
Wait, is the sorcerer the black mage? What is the sorcerer?
Sorcerer is the mystic knight.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right. Okay.
So I could not steal and I could not throw. So item duping was not available to me. After the Crayclaw, you get access to the airship, which is awesome. And if you fly the airship back to where you saw King Tycoon, that village, that ruin that you passed before, rises up and becomes a gigantic floating fortress that contains the Earth Crystal. Because, it's the Earth Crystal. Why wouldn't it fly?
It's also kind of important to note that you also, once you get the airship, have the ability to explore the world before going up that fortress. And there are a couple of optional sequences and environments here.
Yep.
There's the one where you find a little bit more about Bart's, or as Gino insists, Butts.
His name is Butts.
Bart's is a backstory. You find out that his father was a hero, his mother died, and his father died of illness. And he, I think, leaves Ferris to his mother's grave after they rest at an inn.
Yep.
You go to this town and basically it's like, oh, Bart's, you're back. And everything's like super cheap in this town. And it's the only reason why you can only access it by airship is because it's surrounded by mountains. And so there's that environment. There's another optional village. What was it called? I forget. Wasn't Walls' castle. Oh, it was the Easterly Village. There's a couple of those villages by the Crescent. And the thing about the Easterly Village is that if you check out a series of forests next to the village, you can actually get your first optional summon, which is Ramu.
Yep.
Ramu?
Rama.
You can fight Ramu.
Ramu, yeah, right. Which I thought was fun. It's a little bit of world building. I like the fact that there are optional environments. I feel like it's kind of cool that these optional environments are kind of the segue to unlocking new abilities to different classes. There's a later fetch quest where you can add an ability to the Beastmaster. There's another one where you can add an ability to... you're on the piano quest to add an ability to the Bard. I thought that was fun. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, you can also go back to Walt's Castle. You could have done this the first time you were there.
Yes,
but it's a little tough because the basement's a little bit intense for Walt's Castle. But if you go back, there's another optional summon in the basement, Shiva. So you can get your 3 basic elemental summons. Ifrit's mandatory. Ramu you can get, like you said, and then Shiva's in the basement.
Yeah. I thought it was great. The only thing is that a lot of these environments kind of do head into that issue of if you're not ready for them, they can be such a total pain in the ass. There's the one where you go into the cave and it's populated by nothing but squirrels. And there's like a 20% chance that one of the squirrels will have this ability that just instantly kills any of your characters with one shot.
Yes,
there's nothing you can do.
There are Nut Eaters, which are not dangerous at all. They're just regular squirrels. And then Skull Eater, which is silver. And it will occasionally just run away and give you like 5 AP because it just runs. And then occasionally it will just murder your entire party.
It will murder your entire party, and that's a hard reset. And that's, again,
Gotta run.
There are times which leads me to a criticism that I really started to have around this time. So, I kind of am coming around to the job system. I'm not nearly as negative as I was last time I talked to both of you. But, Jesus Christ, unlocking certain quality of life abilities behind passive abilities is the worst. The ability to flee from battle should just be a general thing that I should be able to do. The ability to play the game at twice the speed because the game, by its default speed, is so sluggish and so fucking slow. Like, unlocking some of these abilities behind the jobs, I understand why they did it. But it means that, like, I have to spend time on these ancillary jobs that I would not normally have spent time leveling up just so as that I can have these quality of life additions while playing this game. And that also prevents a certain level of experimentation with the mechanics because I always feel like I need to be able to sprint. I always need to be able to flee. And so that leaves maybe 1 or 2 slots that to really, making these hybrid job classes that are the bread and butter of this game's appeal.
Yeah, I can get with that. If you want the quality of life passives, it's going to be tough to juggle that and have efficacious combat.
I just think it's incorrigible that they put flee, like a very basic command in this particular genre.
Yeah.
You can run
without fleeing.
But I mean, still. I mean, I always have a character that lets me sprint because I can't even. I just can't even.
That's fair. I mean, Jeff, did you find a similar problem? Because for me, at least, flee is redundant with smoke from the ninja. So you actually have 2 ways to get access to running away from enemies.
Yeah.
So that one's not as bad.
I mean, I'm 6, so I did not run from a whole lot of encounters at this point in the game. If anything, I was kind of seeking them out. Again, I'm sort of distantly related to former host Billy Rothert.
And
so...
I am also kind of I never run away. When I play Final Fantasy games, I never run away from random encounters. I play every single one of them. I mean, this is what came up during the Final Fantasy 1. I fought all of those wasps and goblins. I never ran away from them.
Oh, I play like a coward for the most part because I'm trying to go fast.
I desperately, I'll drop it after this. I desperately wish there were more passive ability slots for every character. I think that 1 is not enough. I know that I've said this before, but I think that I kind of wanted the job systems to have a little bit more experimentation, and unlocking all of these abilities is fun. I just wish that the game freed it up to where I could have more of them. But,
the freelancer's waiting for you.
I mean, the freelancer is waiting for me, but I mean, I just, I don't know.
That's fair. I mean, I wish that certain passives like the Geomancer's detect traps ability, actually, is it Ninja Detect Trap? One of them lets you see
Thief is the one that
floors.
does hidden passages.
Okay.
Hidden passages is Thief. Geomancer is trapdoors.
Trapdoors, and they also have don't take damage from floor.
Yeah.
From terrain damage. So those passives that just allow you to navigate the world map a little bit easier, I wish you could just learn them and not have them have to take up your passive. I wish it could just be something you have unlocked forever. But
some of them are great passive abilities, and some of them, like the Geomancer's ability, is good for exactly 1 level, and then you have no reason to go back to it.
Yeah.
Yep. So once we get to the flying fortress, you fight this series of guns and cannons alongside this main cannon, and after you defeated these side cannons, the main cannon comes out to play. How did you all find the soul cannon?
This was one of the harder ones of this chunk that we played. There's maybe one more boss that I thought was a little bit harder than this, but yeah. I think the 2 launchers are weak to level 5 death, which I had, but the actual soul gun, it took me 3 or 4 tries to kind of wrap my mind around how to best go about beating it.
Yeah, this is, I think, the first thing in the game that wound up killing me. And I'm, being a very good podcaster, I have not written down what exactly I wound up doing to get past this thing.
I think I brute forced it. I think I just I did like a couple turns of buffing and then I just wailed on it real hard. As someone who's trying to make the effort of getting every single summon in the game, my summoner has been a fairly decent damage dealer, as well as I'm trying to get some of the songs for the Bard, and so the Bard is probably one of my stronger buffers. But yeah, like I said, these boss battles are either super easy where you can just cheese them, and then the ones that you can't cheese just are soul crushing.
Yeah, this was definitely an attrition fight. At that point, I had a reasonably well-equipped blue mage in addition to a summoner and a ninja in my party. So, which I guess, to sort of work off that, okay, let's make a sentence here. Right, so class job criticisms of this game. It is very much like we will trust the player to basically figure out what they want to do. It's basically, right, as with all these games, it's basically a game of do math against increasingly good drawings of stuff. And I got kind of curious because basically am I doing this the right way? And I was well, I don't want to actually drill down and learn what an optimized way to play this game is, because I just really don't care. So I looked up if it is possible to get through this game as a solo freelancer with no job experience at all, none.
Oh God!
And it is. It's been done, and it's not even that RNG reliant. Which as soon as I saw that, I realized, okay, it really doesn't matter what I do with these jobs.
Yeah, there are ways to make the fights easier, but they are not required. I've done 4-job fiestas with every job combination.
So since I hit on that fact, I've been just pretty much okay, well, I think it would be fun to do this and this and this, and it may not be the most optimal way to play this game, but I'll probably muddle my way through. People who are worse at video games have beat this game before me. So
yeah, I mean, I beat this game with a 4-job fiesta of White Mage, Geomancer, Mystic Knight, and Dragoon.
Yep, that would be rough.
So
doable.
If you can win with that, I think you can win with almost anything.
Yeah.
That's a pretty terrible
But Jeff, he kept re-rolling so that he could eat the candy and get chemist.
No, that was when I did the actual fundraiser. That is different. In training, I made sure that I could win with all the different job combinations. Or, I would have pocket strategies for every job.
Sure.
So the Soul Gun, the pocket strategy, and we skipped the Adamantoise because this is a weird boss rush to even get up to the Soul Cannon.
Adamantoise is 20. You can use level 5 death.
That's also what you do with the Soul Gun. So the Adamantoise, I just level 5 death. They killed in one attack. The Soul Cannon has 2 small cannons on its back, and the launchers are vulnerable to level 5 death. So if you just use level 5 death, they instantly die. And then you just have to focus on this thing that does a countdown and then attacks you. So I basically used level 5 death and then berserked my entire party, and then they just out DPS'd it. Then you get to the Ronka Ruins. It's a pretty small dungeon, all said and done.
Yeah, it's nice to go to these 16-bit era dungeons that aren't completely soul-crushing like Final Fantasy II.
Or 1.
Or 1.
These level designs are more recognizable of modern game design.
Not only that, but you always feel like there's almost always at least one job that the level is trying to tell you, yo, this job would make this level way easier.
Yeah, instructive, basically. You can solve, sort of contemporary, Shin Megami Tensei stroke Persona combat. It's just there is, a elemental weakness at play, or, some sort of hamartia that each one of these enemies has, and once I learn that, I can get through these fights really friggin' quick. As opposed to, again, the Final Fantasy II thing, where it's just they just hit me with Paralyze, and now I'm dead, and now I'm in a monster closet, and it's still 16-bit dungeon design. It's not going to be for everyone, but remarkably improved.
You don't say!
And this game, this section is pushing you towards Geomancer. because there are a bunch of invisible floors and things. And the Geomancer, I think the earth magic you can use there is pretty good against most of the enemies you run into. But I didn't mess with that. And it is cool to see how the invisible platforms that you walk through in this level, you can use the thief's ability to detect them, to see where they actually are. But they do a good job with the level design and with the sprites themselves of showing where these invisible platforms start and end, because all the sections that do not have invisible platforms generally have kind of moss growing on the edge.
Yeah.
And then if there's a platform there, it is just a normal floor tile. And so you can tell, there's obviously this is continuing, otherwise moss would have grown on it. Which is cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I think the thing that kind of drove me crazy about this level, this is one of those levels where you go up and down the same level while making progress, and it is, regardless of the version that you played, the monotony of the level design makes it hard to really get your bearings straight. So even though I was using a map, it's like I had to spend a little bit of time and it's a lot of like what should be tight, narrow corridors, but they spread them out so as that they can deliberately confuse you a little bit. And, this is one of those levels where the game kind of wants you to explore so as that you can get new stuff, but I just reached the point to where it's like, good on the game for at least making to where everything that's you can get in a dungeon is eventually purchasable in the merchants.
Yeah, and I would say that you can get turned around in this level, but at least it's mercifully small.
Yes, it's tight.
So once you work your way down to the Earth Crystal, you find King Tycoon, and he's up to no good. But he prompts you to take out the Archaeoavis, this flying snake monster, that is able to change its defenses, its elemental defenses, as you fight it. Mm-hmm. However, this is not a case where the boss uses a move and then changes its elemental defense. After you deal about 1,000 damage to it, what happens is in the background the enemy changes. So It's the same sprite, but another Archaeoavis basically comes into the spot where the old one was.
Which was frustrating. Oh my god.
A different level, it'll have a different elemental defense, it'll be back to full health basically, and then it also has different vulnerabilities to status effects and stuff, which is interesting.
It's interesting on paper, but the execution is where I was really frustrated with, because remember that fire monster where it changes into different shapes, where it's the walking form, then the hand form, and different forms. There's a visual cue. And they even did that with Shiva, where Shiva transforms depending on if it's in an aggressive stance or if it's in a passive stance. With this one, there's no animation. It doesn't even flicker to show that it's switched to a different form. It's the same monster sprite. It doesn't even disappear temporarily until you reach the final form.
Yeah, your attacks just stop working suddenly.
And so I always this one also took me, I think, 2 or 3 tries, because I didn't know when to stop using a certain element. I didn't know when to stop using which weaknesses were still working and which ones were not working, which was frustrating. And it was kind of weird because I feel like, this exact concept has been done better previously in this exact game. So I don't know. Yeah,
I did appreciate that the final form, when it revives King Tycoon, is oh wow, what a cool monster this thing is. It's King Tycoon, what the hell? Your kids, your daughters, you love them.
But luckily, the final form is weak to level 5 death.
Yep, it's a level 20 monster, so just give it the skull.
Yeah.
So after you beat that, King Tycoon walks up to the Earth Crystal. He tries to destroy it. He gets snapped to his senses by Krile, Galoof's granddaughter. She shows up and basically drop kicks him with magic. And then he snaps to his senses, realizes, oh my, what have I been doing? And he, talks to Ferris, who he calls, in my version of the game, Salsa. And Lena, and he says, oh, what a fool I've been. I was mind-controlled by this evil wizard, X-Death. But, alas, the damage to the Earth Crystal is too great, and it explodes. freeing X-Death from his prison. At which point X-Death teleports to your location, kicks the shit out of your team, and then threatens to kill your entire party. But King Tycoon sacrifices himself to save the rest of your party. And you are basically separated for a bit. You get access to another job. For me, it's another burst of jobs. So you get Samurai, Lancer, Dancer, and Chemist. For my 4-job fiesta, I was forced to use Dancer.
Oof. Oh, God.
It's not a great one.
Yeah. Ragged. Jesus.
But we'll make it work. At this point, Galoof and Krile go back to their homeworld, which this game's wild that way. And Bartz, Lena, and Ferris are kind of left in their wake, and they decide, hey, if Galoof's in trouble and his homeworld is in trouble, we're going to go with him. We're not just going to let him take this on by himself. So from here, you need to go to each of the different meteorites that have crashed down onto your world and power up your power up the adamantium crystal that you got.
Right.
By going to the different warp zones in each of the meteors.
Right, this section.
So this kind of sucked.
Yeah.
And the reason it sucked is, and again, shame on me, I should have just looked up an actual map, just .png file of this game, but I was trying to be a good, honest boy and use the in-game map to do this, which does not show you where those meteorites are. Which, okay, maybe that's not the biggest deal in the universe, but I tell you what, you hunt and peck around that fucking map and try to find these 4 3x1 tile meteorite sites. It's not great. I didn't enjoy it. I remembered where 2 of them were, and the other ones I was like, God, is it here? Is it here? Is it over here? Ugh.
Yeah, and each of these battles are tough. They're not as tough. They're no slouch. They each have their own gimmicks, and you're playing one character down. And hopefully Galoof was not important to your party.
Right.
Which he was.
He was my red-blue mage guy, so he's a really good utility player, but it wasn't killing me. But I missed him.
Yeah. And also it means that Galoof is kind of, Galoof is always going to be slightly behind, especially in my playthrough, because, I don't know, it sucked. It didn't help that you have to do this 3 goddamn times. The first time would have been fine. Get 1 crystal to help power this thing up. But
yeah, it can be very annoying. And as someone who's doing a 4-job fiesta, some of these bosses have gimmicks that if you don't have access to an easy way to exploit that gimmick, you can be a little bit screwed. Titan is the first boss that I encountered, and when he dies, he does a last gasp attack on you that will deal 500 damage to my entire party, which is enough to wipe out most of my party. And if I had a Dragoon, you can have everyone else just keep attacking, and then the Dragoon jump, and then you'll avoid the earthquake. You could also have someone who can cast Float, and that would get you around Titan's damage. So there are a few different ways to approach that thing, but I don't have access to them.
Okay.
So,
I have a technical question for you.
yes.
So if you're doing a 4-job fiesta, and you get to this passage of the game, so Galoof is gone, but Galoof has one of those classes.
Yes.
Can you use that class because he's not in your party?
Yes.
Can you hot swap?
You can pass those 4 jobs as you want. You must have at least 1 character of each job when that is possible.
Okay.
But you can pass the jobs around, so you can spread around the passives.
Okay.
So here I just, made 1 character a Mystic Knight, 1 character a Blue Mage, and 1 character, I think, a Trainer, because Dancers, your base HP is too low against Titan. So Dancer is the party that's excluded.
Quick question. So I was playing around with the Chemist class.
Yes.
Because I remember Gino using the Chemist class to break this game sideways during his Giant Bomb Community Endurance run. Quick question about the Chemist class. So whenever I use the class, it defaults to Drink, which is completely useless, and I hate that ability.
I mean, it's not useless. It's just not as good as Mix.
It's Mix that I really want, but is there a way for me to swap drink with mix as the command, or do I always have to use my passive ability on mix?
It's always your passive. Drink is a separate ability.
Oh. So basically what you're saying is level up to get mix and then have that as a passive ability. See, I hate that. I hate that. There are times when I want my passive ability to be my active ability with that job class, but the game doesn't let me.
Yep.
Like when you're doing the Beastmaster, sometimes control is far more useful than capture.
Yep.
You're not wrong. Sucks. It sucks.
It can suck. But at least
when there were times where I wanted to capture enemies for my blue mages to learn their abilities, like I had this Beastmaster that had both Beastmaster abilities where I would have preferred to have them, have learning while capturing. But you can't do that because the way the game's job system works, and it's frustrating.
That is very true. Yeah, but you should get mix. Mix is really good. Jeff, have I explained how mix works?
I have a working grasp of it. For the listeners, how does mix work?
Do you remember Final Fantasy X-2?
Yes,
sure do.
Actually. Yes. So every game that the chemist's job has ever been in, I think, eventually is broken. So the mix, let me make sure that I've got the correct formulas.
While you're doing that, Jeff, I'm going to send in the FF5 4-Job Fiesta randomizer, and you and I are going to click this and see, if God loves us, and then Gino will laugh at our combinations, okay?
Fair enough.
Okay, so you got the link?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so Gino, we're gonna click the buttons for the 5-Job Fiesta. You need to tell us, do you want us to allow Berserker and allow Mime?
I'm allowing everything.
You're allowing everything?
I'm just telling you right now.
Okay.
You're a madman.
Can we allow advanced jobs, Gino?
No, because you're not playing
the
advanced game.
So
you are? Okay, fine. Fair.
All right.
Go for it.
So,
okay. I have White Mage, good. Summoner, good. Ranger, good. Dancer, terrible.
So out of 1 out of 10, what would you give Jeff's 4-Job Fiesta?
I mean, that one has nothing broken, but a lot of good bread and butter jobs. So I'd say that's like a 6.
Yeah, it's like a 3, 4. Yeah.
All right, let me click
5,
mine.
Yeah, it's like a 3 out of 5.
So I got Thief, Time Mage, Ranger, oh god, and Dancer. This is the worst.
That's a 2. That's a 1 or a 2. That's one of the worst possible combinations. It's very fitting.
Yeah.
I hate you, Gino.
Sorry. So
thank you. Thank Nathan.Canada. Anyway,
yep.
Yes.
This thing.
The two big broken combinations for the chemist, if you're playing the PS1 or SNES version, are Bacchus's Wine, which is holy water plus turtle shell. That will afflict whatever target you have with the Berserk status, but it goes through resistances. So it's bugged in those versions of the game, and so you can afflict anything with the Berserk status. So some bosses that all they do is cast magic, no more they don't. Now they just attack you over and over and over again. And that can break some of the scripting for certain enemies. So that one's super good. And then the really super broken one is Samson Power, which is holy water plus antidote, because that just boosts your character's level by 10.
Damn.
So if you just use that a few times, you can get your character to max level regardless of what your starting level was, and then you just murder your opponent because they're level 99.
Don't worry, Riku, you're still my favorite chemist.
She cooks it up. She's in the trap. She's cooking it up.
What is it? Winds of Eternity? Wings of whatever it was?
The one that makes you do 99999 damage every attack, and then
that's the only way I was able to finish 10, Gino.
You throw something that does multiple instances of damage, and then you just wreck them. Yeah, so the Chemist is really good. You should use the Chemist if you have access to it. I think they also have... there's also Giant Drink, which is Elixir plus Dragon Fang, and that doubles your max HP.
But only in battle.
Good one. Only until the end of that battle, but if you need to get through a boss fight or something, that's particularly good. You can also mix up elixirs. Like, That's kind of interesting. But I think the only way to do that is to use an elixir, so you don't want to do that.
So, yeah, I mean, it's important to note that, during this time you should be kind of finding these new abilities, tying up your little knots, and it's very important, because once you get on that meteor, you are not coming back to World 1.
Yes. Yeah. You fight
There are some blue magic spells that you probably should get before you leave. Even though you have some opportunities to get them in the second world, there are certain things that you will not be able to do should you leave the planet.
Yes, fight the Black Flame and get Dark Spark. That will let you have your opponent's level, and that will allow Death by Math to flow easily. After you do that, and after you get some of these blue magics, you fight these boss rush, you end up on Galoof's world. And in this section of the world, you're kind of just like on an island for a bit. Like you're by if you fight random enemies, and then you need to use a tent. And when you use a tent, you'll get attacked by an abductor, which you can win or lose that battle. Regardless of what happens, you will end up kidnapped, which is a bummer. And you get taken to Exdeath's castle. Once you wake up in his gigantic... It's like made of bones, right? It's
a weird
creepy.
castle. It's a cool design. It's weird.
It's made of bones.
And it's outside. It's purple.
Yeah. So you escape from a jail cell. I think Krile sets you free.
Wait, no, don't we cut back to, it turns out that Galoof is the king, or?
Oh, yes, Galoof is a king. And he's getting ready for war with Exdeath.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. I guess I'm trying, I tried to run this through my mind if this was like back when this game first came out, like, you going on a quest to save these 4 crystals, it mimicking the format of Final Fantasy games from yesteryear. If, like, the fact that there's a second world was like this, oh my god moment, like, or if people totally saw it coming. Because you reach that point where you have to go to the alternate world, and it's only like hour 10 for most people, like myself, who are playing this for their first time. So I was kind of wondering if this whole like multi-dimensional format of this game was like an inverted castle kind of moment, or if it was just kind of like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
Spoilers. So, no. Final Fantasy IV basically did this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You go to the moon. Right.
Yeah. Which.
Right.
I think the thing that this game does is it basically has that moment a couple times.
Yeah, 4, 5, and 6 all do this.
Right. But yeah, 4 kind of...
Yeah, I haven't played 4
prepared the way for this.
Yeah, I haven't played 4 extensively, but I know because as someone who was moderating a wiki and the After Years came out while I was moderating the wiki, I know you go to the moon.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6... 7, 8, and 9 all do this in the back half of the game. Something happens that changes the world, or you go to another world, or there's always something.
Yet somehow, apparently, if people have approached me about this privately, I still apparently don't know the big plot twist of 6, so don't spoil that one for me.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess 10 kind of does it too, if you want to be somewhat charitable. And that's kind of what the tone of this reminded me of. It had this very, like... Well, shit, now we're stuck on this island in this world that we have no idea what we're doing. Like, it's very, a very cold, hard cut that separates what came before from what's happening now.
Yeah,
like,
now we're on this other world, and there's a war going on between Exdeath and his right-hand man, Gilgamesh, and King Galoof. Like, it's a very different situation.
The tone's very cool. Which leads very neatly into maybe the best tonal thing from Final Fantasy V, which happens like about now, which is it starts playing the best fucking song you've ever heard.
Oh, it will. Yeah. So Galoof goes on a mission to free Bart's and crew, and he does so on a solo mission with a dragon, with a drake. He breaks in, he fights Gilgamesh, sets everyone free, and then you go on the big bridge for the titular battle on the big bridge, which is just the best. It's the standout song that always gets played at the Final Fantasy concerts from 5.
And a pretty, maybe not the best Final Fantasy set piece you've ever had, maybe even not the best set piece in this game, but a fun sequence that ends with a nice boss battle. And again, like, they could pretty much have you, like, picking up rocks and carrying them to the other side of the yard for, like, 20 minutes while this music was playing, and you'd probably be into it. So, yeah. That you're doing, like, cool fighting stuff with, like, a very strong, like, visual of, like, I'm progressing forward on this bridge, and every time I move a little bit farther forward, there's another fight. And it's big, like a big bridge.
You can actually dodge those fights on the big bridge.
Yeah, but I didn't want to because I felt like it lent itself to the scene, like to fight everything, to be fighting and murdering. It's probably one of my favorite scenes in this game so far. A
strong ludonarrative, the opposite of ludonarrative dissonance, basically.
It's this melding of music, gameplay structure, the environment. Because remember, like, there's this. Before, we had seen basically Exdeath kill virtually the entire army of Galoof's, nation just by pressing a button and deploying a shield, and just
that's
flinging everyone. And here you are just trying to survive, murdering things. Just, it's so good. I feel like this game, cinematically, and we maybe haven't spoken enough about how cinematically the attempt to, like, have that, cutscene-esque direction. It's so good. What I'm saying.
Yep. This game makes a lot. It does a lot with not a lot of resources.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that it was not ported to, or was not brought over to the US until the PS1 version. In many ways.
With its great translation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Salsa. Look, if you're telling me Princess Salsa is not one of your favorite characters, I don't know what to tell you.
Princess Salsa riding the wyvern. Yeah.
Riding the wyvern with her friend Sildra.
While fighting bald money.
God.
Fighting against soccer.
So, you cross this bridge, you fight Gilgamesh basically for the second time in as many, like, hours, basically.
Yep. And then the barrier comes and it knocks your entire party into the wilderness. From here, you need to kind of just walk around. You run into a few towns. There's not a lot going on. You have a couple of conversations between Galoof and Bartz if you rest at inns, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can go to the sealed castle, but I don't believe you can actually do anything in it right now. You'd get your butt kicked, I think, right?
Yes. In fact, the NPCs warn you not to go into the castle. There's another cave that... Was it this world or the other world that has the Gill Cave?
I don't remember a Gill Cave. It was the other world, I think, where you fight the
Gill monster. And that's another boss battle where it's a neat environment, but all of these worlds have... all of the optional worlds have these bosses that are way too hard.
Yeah. Then you stumble upon the Moogle Forest, which is cool.
Yeah. Which apparently is optional. I kind of looked up how to deal with certain parts of the Moogle Forest. You can totally skip the Moogle Forest and keep going. The only problem is that later down the road, that Moogle doesn't help you out. So it's actually to your benefit to help the Moogle out. You go up against
you can get items there.
Yes, you can get some cool items. One of which made me want to eat my own eyeballs out. There's the dirk that you get from that one goddamn Moogle that the system...
The dancing dirk?
Yes, the system detects as having really high stats, and if you're not careful, will automatically put as the default weapon. Which, with certain classes, sure, with like a white mage, like having the dancing dirk isn't that big of a deal. But with your DPS classes, having them subjected to this roulette wheel was just like, oh god, I wish I hadn't picked that thing up, because there have been so many times where I just hot swapped my characters to have these classes, and then they were carrying that dirk, and that dirk just messed me up.
It's the best. I love that the dancing... So the dancing dirk causes your character, whenever they attack, to use the dancer's dance ability, basically. And so you have a random chance of, like, flirting with the enemy, which will sometimes charm them or, like, confuse them occasionally. Sometimes you'll do the sword dance, and that'll attack 4 times, which is super good. And then there's 2 other outcomes, which I don't think are good either.
There's one that's Osmone.
Yeah, it's... Dancer, man. It's a weird job.
So,
have fun with that, Gino.
So this was the first point in the game where Jeff started to give in to some really dark temptations. So,
to a dark place. You went to a dark place.
I went to
the monster.
I went to the bad place. So, I'm just straight up looking at a guide for Blue Mage shit because I cannot be asked to like fumble my way through it. If you could Libra and it would tell you that they had a spell, I actually might not, but you can't. So I'm like, okay, what should I be killing here? So I wound up kind of cheesing trying to fight the Kuza Beast for a while, which gives a not particularly useful ability, which I finally got. And I did wander into the sealed castle, and there's an enemy in there called a shield dragon, which you can cheese pretty easily. It's got like 20,000 hit points, but it's gooseable. And it was dropping 5 AP on every kill, and I was able to take it down in about 2 rounds with like very minimal risk after I controlled it. So I hung out there for a while and ground up a couple levels of entry-level things for everyone. And we're not quite there, but pretty soon after there's an even better, like, hidden ABP grinding spot, which I guess what I'll say about that is I think they're like that for a reason. I think the designers of this game very clearly, like, knew what they were doing when it's like, wow, this seems kind of broken. It's like, no, it's probably there to be like, did you not get a class up to where you wanted it to be before you left that other world? Here's a chance to do that. So I kind of dug my heels in here, and then there's one coming up where I really kind of was like, okay, let's park the car down in this basement for a while.
Well, did you at least leave the basement stronger than when you entered?
Oh my god. Not only stronger, but I think it was even before I started doing this also, I guess I'll say. Around the time I got to the second world, the economy of this game kind of started to be broken.
Yeah.
Money has not been a problem for me for maybe the last 15 hours of the game I've played.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
Like, it, and I've not even been, like, selling stuff. I've just been not running from fights. And, yeah, like, I've been in, like, 6-figure gold for a long time. I can just kind of roll into a new town and be like, oh, that would be a useful hat. Let's buy 2 of them.
Jesus, Jeff.
Man.
Look, I'm only at about 25
Yikes.
hours.
Yeah, stack it to the ceiling. Stack that money to the ceiling. I'm at like
Get that grip.
6.
Which, like, I think if I'm honest,
perpetually broke because I don't.
If I'm honest, like, I see this as kind of a problem. Like, when you play a game like Civilization or something, like, money on the table is basically wasted potential.
Exactly.
Like, it's like power that you haven't actualized to affect change in the world. So you have all this money sitting in a bank, and they give you not a ton of opportunities to spend it, frankly. And at this point, the most useful items for me to buy are basically cottages, because it's like the most effective way to heal anything. So I'm not really buying ethers or elixirs or potions or high potions or anything. I'm basically buying some Phoenix Downs, a handful of like a couple. Yeah, ethers when I see them, just because whatever. But like mostly it's just cottages. And I don't, like I said, I think like 3 things have killed me in this game. One of them was that soul cannon. Anyway.
I think Gino and I have died, I mean, not a lot, but we've died a decent amount because we're not optimized or anything like that. But I don't know, man. I
mean, from
Blue Mage is good, Summoner's good.
Sure is.
This is why when I was like, oh shit, a White Mage and a Summoner, that is what I am doing. And I am trucking the fuck out of this game.
I guess that's the other thing is, like, at this point, I kind of felt I don't know how I felt. I was either nonplussed with the new jobs and the new batch of jobs I was getting, or I felt overwhelmed to where I didn't want to experiment with some of the newer jobs because I felt comfortable with what I had.
And this game does not force you to move out of your comfort zone if you don't want to. All of this stuff is to be played with.
Yeah.
Many of the enemies do not force you to do anything in particular. And they will allow you to get away with a few different combinations. Like if something's weak against magic, you can use magic from Summoner. You can use Black Mage. You can use Mystic Knight. You can use any number of different approaches to dealing that damage. You can throw things with a ninja. But you'll need to be strategic. You need to be strategic, but the specific way you execute your strategy can be considerably customizable.
It's just the one thing that I feel like I'm doing more and more often, and Gino, even you have done this on your streams that are on your Twitch account, which you should follow because Gino's streams are quite good.
Thank you. Twitch.tv/thatpinguino.
It's that whenever there was a boss battle or a particularly hard random encounter, I would hit pause on the game. I would go to the Final Fantasy Wikia. I would search for the name of that monster.
Yep.
I would see what their elemental weaknesses are, if there were any, and then I would see if they were vulnerable to status effects. Then I would jump back into the battle, unpause, see if I had any of those classes that could do that, and then make it done. And I feel like that's the best way to play this game because trying to solve this stuff organically is just time-consuming and not all that fun.
Yes, I agree. That's the way I play this game. That's the way I've always played this game. I look up the things that the things are weak against, and then I mess up my opponents using that strategy.
And I feel, I'm... Remember Final Fantasy 12 where you would just automatically cast Libra and all that shit would be on the screen?
I don't remember ever playing Final Fantasy 12. Final Fantasy 12 happened. I went into a fugue state, and then it was done. I don't remember ever playing Final Fantasy. Did we play Final Fantasy 12?
Fine, whatever. You can be like that. I'm just saying that trying to find a lot of this information out, trying to solve or deduce what... Like, sometimes the weaknesses and vulnerabilities are not that easy to detect, and even Libra is not as helpful as it should be, because Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you all the things you need.
Again, if it just told me what blue spells that this thing could give me, it would be, like, infinitely more useful. But I still wind up using it quite a bit.
And you'll just get blue magic stuff by accident. You don't need to go out of your way a lot of the time.
You say that, but at a certain point,
like...
if you aren't controlling things to basically trick them, or there is a point where you do kind of have to rely on externals, like, though I guess it's kind of a dead giveaway when something tries to cast a spell, and then it's like, oh, it doesn't have enough MP. And it's like, I bet if I feed this a potion, it will probably cast its spell. Like, maybe a sign, I guess, but
I feel like especially with the blue magic abilities, because they are so fundamental to a class. Would it have hurt? Like, there's a library in that one level. Could I just get a book and find out what the list of those things were? Or how about, if you're going to give me the chemist, have me find recipes in the game, like something. Because otherwise, I feel like I'm fumbling around without using a guide.
I don't think any Final Fantasy game has ever given you the answer to the mixability. They never give you a chart. They always just say, just have fun experimenting. They like expect you to come up with your own chart. Don't. Just look it up.
Yeah, and in a different JRPG franchise known as the Tales of franchise, they actually give you recipes and you can actually cook and do things and find stuff by finding items.
Sounds nice. So we were just past the Moogle Forest. You eventually go below ground. You fight a Tyrannosaurus, which is like a skeleton, so you can insta-kill that with revival magic.
Down.
Just use a Phoenix Down on it. You go back to the Moogle village, and from there, you encounter Krile, who flies in and rescues you.
Say, though, whenever you go inside a tree in this game, it's disgusting. It looks like viscera. It looks like maggots. It's the worst. I hate the way the inside of trees look like, and especially when you get to the near end of this game, You sure do look at that, like, gross-looking inside tree level design, texture design.
I don't love it.
It's awful. It is awful.
Well, it's fine. It's not like the final boss is going to be anything tree-related, so it'll be fine.
Remind me of those Final Fantasy IX levels where it's all neon green and you're going in the labyrinth deep below the giant tree thing.
The Ifa tree?
The Ifa tree. Is the Ifa tree a giant reference to Final Fantasy V, Gino?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a throwback to 5. It's a reference to some of the stuff here. So yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, the more that we play these earlier games, I think if we go back to 9, you'll be like, oh shit, now I got it. Like Gilgamesh. He's in 9. He's the multi-armed thief that you run into. Okay, so Krile rescues you, you go to Val Castle, which is Galoof's castle. Yep. You rest up, you get some good items, you can buy cool weapons there.
And this is where Jeff was really bad.
What'd you do? Did you buy a bunch of stuff?
I mean, I did because there's
How
a basement. How
long were you in the basement of this castle, Jeff?
If I'm honest, not about 1 hour. But let me tell you, it was an hour where I went into that basement. I took my blue mage out. I had him cast level 5 death until he ran out of magic. Then I ran to the hotel. Then I ran back into that basement. And then I cast friggin' level 5 death until I ran out of MP. And then I went back to the hotel. Like, just back. Because, like, so there's one mob that happens in this basement. Well, there's 2 varieties of it. There's one that is, like, 3 of a thing called an object d'art. Or 2 or 5, basically, are the badges. Yeah. And respectively, they will drop either 4 or 8 ability points each fight. You can the potential here is staggering. And
they're all vulnerable to level 5 death.
Yeah, so you just go in there and just nuke this mob, and the encounter rate in this basement is astronomically higher than most things have been up to this point. So you finish this fight, which takes all of 10 seconds, move about 2 tiles, fight another mob, etc. So I definitely maxed out at least one like black mage on somebody while I was down there.
Jesus.
But they were already like level 3. Like I didn't start from nothing. And like, you know what? You could, at a certain point, I just sit myself down on the bus and was like, look, like, I'm getting something out of this. Like, they're dumping a ton of money, and I'm leveling these classes up, and this is kind of fun. That's great.
Right.
I don't know if I want to fucking max all of my shit out running around in this basement when I could go play the rest of the game in, like, something that resembles a normal human way. So I haven't gone back since. But I will say, if you get to this point in the game and you're like, I want to top off some stuff so I just don't have to fucking worry. Like, I really never want to have to take out Geomancer again. I just want the abilities, please. Thank you. Fuck you. Bye. Here's a great way to finish off Geomancer. And then not have to think about it anymore. So this was my, like the time I played EVE Online. Like, I played EVE Online for 1 month. But when I say 1 month, I mean I played it basically for like 1 month. And that was like about all I did for that month. And then I'm never going back because it's too powerful. So it's a good basement.
Excellent.
Wait. Go
ahead.
Jeff did mention something, and I think we need to do like a little quick reviewer. Jeff is playing the Game Boy Advance version. I am playing the Steam port of the iOS Android version, and Gino's probably playing the actual version of this game you should play.
The PS1 version.
I would
the bad translation, the funniest translation.
A kind of funny.
Yes, it's a very funny Princess Salsa Soccer.
Yeah.
I was saying that sarcastically. I think that Jeff's version's probably the best because I like our translation better. I like some of the bugs they've removed.
I like that they left those grimy bugs in.
But maybe my version, the Steam version's not the one you want to get.
No.
Maybe. I like the character portraits. I think they look great. I wish that they had used the kind of like just use the Game Boy Advance textures. But the problem with the Game Boy Advance version is that the audio in that version is god-awful and makes my ears bleed.
Yeah, I guess a note on that, too. I've been bitching to these guys, and if you're in the Discord, which you can give by $1 to the Deep Listens podcast at Patreon, I have been pissing and moaning about... So I have a Game Boy Advance SP, which for those of you who are a little younger than me, they famously do not have a headphone jack. So if you wanted to use headphones with one of those flippable Game Boy Advances, you have to get this little fucking dongle that plugs into the power charger thing and basically has like the ass end of what you'd plug a headphone cable into. And they're all made basically in what I would describe as a death camp in China, probably. They all suck shit. They're all like the shoddiest pieces of electronics you can buy. So playing this game with like what are occasionally fine and occasional not wonderful renditions of beautiful SNES music, and then having like various combinations of sound channels or entire like one side of audio just cutting out when I so much as like look at my Game Boy the wrong way. It was making me it made me not want to play the game or just play it on mute or listen to which like it fucking sucked. And then I realized I've had a DS Lite sitting in a box for like 3 years.
Yeah.
So if you want to play the best version, as we've just determined, of Final Fantasy V in probably the best way possible, get yourself a DS Lite. They're like $20 because they made 154 million of them. And pop that in. It's real good.
Agreed.
It has a headphone jack. Like they were like, man, maybe people want this. We only put it on the original Game Boy 30 years ago. Anyway.
Yeah. So after you leave Galoof's castle, there's a small little cave you can go through. Then you go to Kelb Village, where you meet Kelger and the werewolves, because werewolves roam this world. Kelger is one of the Dawn Warriors who fought with Galoof against X-Death, like 20 years before the events of the game, I believe.
A generation.
30 years. It's actually 30 years.
30 years, yeah.
I played this a little today.
They are the parents, basically, of the main characters of 5 for the most part. The parents, or like the generation of the parents of those characters. So Kelger does not trust you, and he initially attacks you. He uses the lupine attack, which is cool looking, but in the cutscene where he uses that, Bartz successfully defeats him and basically mortally wounds one of the heroes of this world. But after you defeat him...
And they're decidedly okay with that.
Yeah, they let you go after you mortally wound this war hero. And the werewolves basically give you safe passage.
You find out about Bartz's father.
Yep, his dad, Dorgan. Turns out he is from World 2 and was one of the Dawn Warriors as well. From here, you go to the Valley of the Dragons because the Dragoon that helped you earlier is now sick, and you have to get it some dragon grass or whatever.
Oh, God.
Which is
so
annoying.
2 things. The fact that it's basically a retread of a mission we've already done before sucks. Like, there's no 2 things about it. The good news is if you talk to one of these 3 wolf people to the side, they give you a song called Requiem for your bard class.
Yeah.
And if you use the bard, it basically just completely murders everything in the level because a vast majority of the enemy encounters in the Valley of the Dragons are undead creatures. And the Requiem song does like bajillion damage to these undead monsters. Again, if you get it, great. It's totally missable, which sucks. And the fact that the actual structure and every plot beat that happens here is just a retread of something you've already seen before kind of sucks as well.
A little bit. The boss here is not especially
the
difficult.
teleport spell, which you can miss. Oh my god.
Yeah.
There are multiple dungeons here where they don't teleport you back to the entrance. So if you do not find the teleport spell in Val's castle, you're screwed. You're just straight up screwed. You have to walk all the way back. Because about World 2 is when they stop automatically transporting you to the entrance, and they expect you to use the teleport spell. And it
must be nice.
Stuck in a chest in, like, King's Hall, and you can totally miss that as well.
Yeah.
Must be nice being able to use the teleport spell.
Must
be nice.
What are you suggesting, Gino?
Must be nice being able to leave without walking out.
What are you suggesting, Gino? Did you not pick up? So what you're saying is, yet again, your version of the game is inferior to ours.
Well, I'm saying in a 4-job Fiesta, if you want to use the teleport spell, you should get White Mage.
Oh, that's right. Right.
Isn't it Time Mage?
It's Time Mage. You should get the one who has the spell. I didn't, so I'll be walking.
No, weird that some of these spells are hidden in chests, but whatever.
Yeah. From here, you go to Surgat Castle, which is Zeza's castle. He is one of the other Dawn Warriors. Or Zezat.
Wait, you're supposed to go to that one wizard's cave, and then it sinks underground.
Yeah, you're supposed to go to Guido's cave, and Guido, it is taken out by X-Death, and he sinks it. So you have to go to Zezat's castle to find an alternate way. And you'll find I believe his fleet is amassing to fight X-Death at this point.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you have to help defend his fleet, and Gilgamesh and Enkidu will attack you, which is cool. You get Gilgamesh again, you get some nice witty banter. And after that fight, Zezat shows you that he actually has a submarine, and you can use this submarine to go find Guido's cave, because it's underwater. Once you go into first you have to fight the barrier tower, right?
Atomos?
Yeah, you have to fight Atomos first.
Right. Atomos is also very vulnerable to... after you split his health in half, he's very vulnerable to... Actually, it's funny on my guide. It says, you have two options for this battle. The easiest way to beat this boss is to use... What's the spell? The casts your... Dark Spark?
Dark Spark.
Dark Spark, and then after one blow of Dark Spark, cast level 5 Death. If, however, you believe that this is too cheap, be aware that this is one of the hardest battles in the game. And when I read that sentence, it's like, well, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah, because every time he takes out one of your characters, when they are unconscious, they will get sucked towards his mouth. And if they end up pulled into the void that is Atomos, they are removed from the battle for good.
Yeah. So this one...
Which is a cool design.
Yeah. This one wound up just straight up killing me at some point. This was, I think the second thing that killed me. But I wound up beating it honest and just letting him, nearly drag people to his mouth and then rezzing them while I was basically rangering the shit out of him. Because at this point, my ranger was basically my primary damage dealer. I had a white...
rapid fire?
I was nearly there at this point. I was just... doing hell of damage, shooting arrows into this thing's face. I had a white mage, a high-level white mage, a high-level red mage, and a summoner. So yeah, I was throwing Titan and then shooting arrows at it, and then the ones that he hadn't killed, basically were throwing Phoenix Downs.
Yeah, and it's an interesting fight because if Atomos takes out a character, it will not perform any action other than sucking that character towards it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can basically allow one character to almost be exiled, and as long as they are getting dragged, you basically have free reign to unload on this guy. So you beat Atomos, and then after that, Zezat gives you the submarine so that you can go to Guido's cave.
He sacrifices himself?
He sacrifices himself again. All the Dawn Warriors just eating it. Once you go into Guido's cave, it turns out that the wise sage Guido is a turtle.
I'm pretty sure that's a Star Wars reference, but okay. Or a Hidden Fortress reference, yeah.
I mean, he's the Yoda of this game. He's this little turtle who's lived for eternity and has kung fu powers. And he teaches you how to fight against X-Death. And he tells you need to go to Moor Forest. And in order to do that, I think you just take the submarine there. You need to take the submarine. You kind of go to an above-ground lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you use the Elder Branch that he gave you to open a passage. Once you get into the forest, it's a little series of... It's like a dungeon, basically.
Yeah. This was also, I think, the first point in this game where I was actually annoyed with the encounter rate. Because I swear to God, this dungeon forest area is unreasonable with the amount of shit it throws at you. Did not care for that at all.
I feel like there were parts where I was literally taking 2 steps and then it was a random encounter.
I definitely was. I was like,
Encounter rate's very high, and it's cool because in this section of the forest, as you're first going through, there are treasure chests that are kind of hidden behind trees and hidden behind branches, but later on, the forest will catch fire, and if you go back to those chests and didn't open them, the items in the chest change.
Yeah.
Some things will be burned to ash, and some items will turn to fire items. So there's an Aegis shield that you can get, and if you don't get the Aegis shield before the fire, it will turn into a flame shield. Or I think there's a sword that will become a flame saber. So it's an interesting thing. At the end of this dungeon, you use the Elder Branch again, and you will fight the water, fire, wind, and earth crystals of World 2.
Fuck this boss battle.
Boss battle sucks.
I got through it my first go.
Good.
How?
Must be nice.
By realizing that the most effective way to get, because my ranger unlocked the X attack thing, the rapid fire ability. So I finally was able to roll my ranger back onto ninja, and I gave them 2 of the dual blade things. So it's like some sword that gives basically 2 attacks. So suddenly I had basically like the classical broken Final Fantasy V thing, a frontline fighter that gets like 8 hits basically.
Yep.
And then my summoner, I was just throwing Titan out every turn he came up. My knight white mage build is finally back in the front row doing fighting things. I forget what my blue mage was doing, but basically I was like, I just need to focus fire on these things. And as I was doing that, I noticed like, these all seem elementally aligned. I couldn't tell you which one was which, but
yeah, each of them is one of the crystals.
Yeah,
so
you got like a wind, a fire,
one's
earth,
fire,
and a water.
one's wind.
So they've got elemental weaknesses to each one of them, which didn't really matter because all I wound up doing was basically throwing Araga out.
How much health did your characters have?
Just over, they're like 1,200-ish, each one of them.
Jesus Christ. That's more than double what I had. I had like 600. I had it to where like, once these crystals use their magic abilities, they could TPK, total party kill me, in 1 to 2 hits. So I had to kill them. I had to kill them. I had to kill them before they used their magic.
So like, what are our play times right now?
Mine's is pretty significant if I check.
Like 6 or 7 hours, I think, on mine.
Jesus
Wait, what the
But
hell?
I'm on World 1 still.
Oh, okay.
But I won't get much. Like, I can beat this game in 10, 15 hours if I'm not 4-job.
So obviously, I'm slopping around, and I had the horrible idea of playing this game without a guide. So I'm at 25 hours, 43 minutes, and my characters are level 27.
I'm at, like, again, maybe it's because I found a couple optimum creases to grind in occasionally, but I'm at 25, and all my characters are, like, level 37? Yeah.
You're a crazy person. I love you, but Jesus Christ.
But we've spent the same amount of time playing is the thing.
Look, ZP, what you need to do is you need to...
I died a lot.
You need to mix up some potions, give your characters Samson power, and then make everyone level 99, and then murder them.
I put a lot of time in maybe some not-so-great jobs. Not going to lie.
Blue mage.
I got a blue mage and a summoner that are really good. I spent a lot of time leveling up Galoof's ninja job. I spent a decent amount of time leveling up someone's Beastmaster job.
Oh. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time leveling up someone's Red Mage job.
I knew I was going to impress you,
what I'm saying is that I might have wasted some of my time. Like, I think my Bard is level 3.
That's unnecessary.
I have nearly finished leveling up a Red Mage, who's also my Blue Mage.
Okay.
So after you defeat these crystals, it's an interesting design. Like, the crystals don't start using powerful attacks until they're below half health. So it's basically a sprint to get them from half health to 0. So you want to manage. You don't want to use AoE attacks on them unless you're really sure that your AoE attacks are going to kill all of them.
Yeah.
Must
you
be
want to
nice
take them out one at a time. After that, Xdeath shows up and he wrecks your party and he's going to kill everyone. But then Galoof summons the power of the Dawn Warriors unto himself, and all of his fallen brethren give him their strength, Goku style, and he starts flashing and having extra power, and he goes Super Saiyan and takes out Xdeath in one of the cooler set-piece battles in this game, I think.
Yeah.
Galoof goes down, Xdeath will keep bombing him with spells, and Galoof's HP will go to 0, and he just keeps fighting, and you will eventually defeat Xdeath. When you beat him, Galoof will die, but Krile will inherit all of his strength, so Krile will replace him in your party.
Which is a bummer, because Galoof, this kind of humorous grandpa character, gets replaced by Krile, who is this whimsy pixie girl that I've just kind of not liked as much as Galoof.
That's fair. I mean, she's the most... obviously, she's the least developed of the characters. She's pretty much a stand-in for this other character. I do appreciate that Krile's outfits, when she's wearing each of the jobs, tends to be suitably different from the other characters. So some of her costumes look very funny because she's a child, and the other kids are all young adults.
I guess that's the one thing I liked about Galoof is in our version of the game, Galoof kind of looks like the dude, or he looks like the Big Lebowski from, the Big Lebowski. He looks like a bum. It's great. It's awesome.
Yep. He's the bum king.
Yeah.
So I think this is where we leave Final Fantasy V for now.
Correct.
So feeling a little better about it now, both of y'all?
I think I'm still probably the least enthused of it. I think I like it. I wish that there were better ways to play it other than grind, and then play this game by always having a guide on hand and cheesing it. Which I'm glad that that's a choice. I'm glad that's an option, because it's better than, say, Final Fantasy II, where there's this 8 to 10 hour part where you just feel like you're banging your head on a wall. But yeah, I don't know. I wish these characters had more moments, because I think that the story here is so charming that I wish there were more character moments, moments for the characters to just talk to each other and just absorb the scenery. But that's neither here nor there. We've got a couple years before Square really starts to double down on their storytelling prowess.
And they do it in 4 and in 6, but 5 is kind of the lighthearted, fun, mechanically driven one.
Yeah.
So they don't go so hard in that direction in this game. Jeff, you're enjoying it so far?
I am. I feel kind of bad. I feel like maybe it's good that I put this off as long as I have, in a sense, because I can kind of appreciate it a little more, just how impressive this game was for its day. I can also maybe kind of square the circle of why they ultimately didn't localize it in 1992. It would have seemed, when you look at JRPGs that came out in America around that time, it was Final Fantasy IV as Final Fantasy II, Dragon Quest IV on the NES, and which are both fairly 4 is kind of an interesting chapter structure, but it plays like a Dragon Quest game, and Final Fantasy IV is fairly straightforward.
Are you suggesting that Tower of Druaga was not a important catalyst for the genre to explode in the West?
That's neither here nor there. Not really a JRPG for starters. Talk about that for an hour. But yeah, I am really enjoying this game. I think it is pretty damn good. It is a top shelf Final Fantasy thing. And it's also making me kind of look forward to appreciate just how wild the tonal shift was in Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah.
That game, right from the jump, 5 starts with a happy little fanfare and a man on a low bird. and like hijinks, and Final Fantasy VI is like the
world
Empire
is dead.
has been stomping everyone with its big nasty metal feet, and everyone is dirty, and it all hurts. Like, just very different tone. So yeah, if we're gonna end Happy Final Fantasy on this note, it's a good note.
Yeah, we're gonna end from 5. We will have no Happy Final Fantasy until 9.
Yeah.
It's going to be a dark winter after this. And then after 9, there will never be another Happy Final Fantasy game until 10-2, in some ways.
A joyous Final Fantasy.
Yes. And then after 10-2, never again was there happiness.
You, as the person who's played 13-2, you two have something to look forward to.
Oh, goody.
Yay.
Well, with that threat looming over all of us, I think it's time to call it a day on Final Five-stasy. So thank you once again, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, ZP.
Knights do it two-handed.
So from here, let's just finish out Final Fantasy V.
Okay. Get it done?
Get it done. Get
Give
it right,
ourselves...
get it tight.
Yeah, okay.
Two-handed.
Let's get it done.
If you want to get in touch with the show, you can do so at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got our comment sections, and Deep Listens Podcast at gmail.com. You can also support the show, patreon.com/deeplistens. Till next time, peace!